After a big climactic showdown, all those supervillains need to end up somewhere. That's where superhero prisons come into play. Some are built to house superpowered humans and crime overlords, while others contain literal gods. We're going to go over all of them today. Department of Damage Control, also known as the DODC. Damage control has actually been around in the MCU way longer than most people clock. The first time they're even mentioned is back in Iron Man 1. Right before Tony's press conference, Coulson tells him that a SHIELD unit called Damage Control has already been dispatched to clean up the aftermath of Tony's brawl with Obadiah. Damage control's never been his strong suit, really. No pun intended. So at this point, their whole thing is making sure there's somebody around to secretly clean up after superheroes. After the Battle of New York in 2012, though, aliens, superheroes, and the destruction they bring became public knowledge. So there was no real point in keeping that kind of work hidden anymore. That's when the US government spins damage control off into its own executive department, with funding from Tony Stark and Stark Industries. Their first major public job is the New York cleanup, which is also where they take over Adrian Toombs' salvage contract, accidentally pushing him into becoming the Vulture. Also, there's a lot to unpack here.
Who the hell are you?
Qualified personnel.
Look, I have a city contract to salvage all this, okay, with the city.
I apologize, Mr. Toombs, but all salvage operations are now under our jurisdiction. Please turn over any and all exotic materials that you've collected, or you will be prosecuted.
One, I kind of get the need for something like the DODC because look at that guy slipping alien tech into his pocket. That's just asking for a higher crime rate. But also, why do they have the jurisdiction to prosecute local contractors? Screams potential abuse of power to me. From there, they start stockpiling everything recovered from enhanced incidents in their own warehouses. Alien weapons, tech, artifacts, you name it. Stuff that would have previously ended up at SHIELD sites, like the fridge, is now handled by the DODC instead. We even see one of these storage facilities in Homecoming, when Toombs raids one of their armored trucks in DC, and Peter wakes up inside a damage control warehouse after getting knocked out trying to stop him. Then SHIELD fell in 2014, and damage control quietly absorbed a lot of what SHIELD used to do. Fast forward to post-blip. And Agent P. Cleary from the New York office is leading the investigation into Peter Parker after Mysterio's death. Damage control detains Peter, Ned, MJ, and Happy while looking into the drone attacks across Mexico, Morocco, Venice, Prague, and London. This is pretty much what I was talking about. Total abuse of power. They're pretty much using all the tech they're hoarding, which, let's be honest, everybody saw that coming. Those are some pretty serious guns to be using on a teenager. A lot of their current equipment is reverse engineered from confiscated alien weapons or older Stark tech that had originally been sold to SHIELD. Things like sonic cannons that were once used on the Hulk have now been miniaturized down to rifle-sized non-lethal weapons for use against enhanced individuals like Ms. Marvel. They also take possession of Stark systems like Edith during the Spider-Man investigation in 2024. And those drones get deployed the following year during their pursuit of Kamala Khan and the clandestines in Ms. Marvel. By then, Damage Control is also running its own supermax facility in California. That's where Emil Blonsky is held for the last few years of his sentence, and it's where She-Hulk ends up being detained as well before one is released, and the others escape. Also, can we talk about how they can literally keep gamma-powered people locked up now? Maybe we'll have a Thor jail someday. After the failed attempt to apprehend Kamala and Kamran, Cleary is reassigned to the LA office, where he's told pretty directly by Deputy Secretary Heyerdahl that they need to start bringing in more enhanced individuals if they want to keep their funding. And all of this is happening in a world where we now know federal agencies were one of the main targets during the Skrull infiltration of Earth's governments. Honestly, they were bad enough before shapeshifting aliens hijacked their chain of command. Which leads to an investigation into Simon Williams, also known as Wonder Man. And they went about this in a really manipulative way. They knew Simon had dreams of being a big shot actor, So they sent Trevor Slattery, also known as the Mandarin, to spy on him. And they disguised him as a successful actor. The two develop a great friendship. But when he finds out, Simon doesn't exactly take this news too well. This little outburst would have been all the evidence the department needed to put him behind anti-superpower bars. But Trevor ends up growing a conscience and takes the fall for him in a very public display.
That explosion on the set of Hollywood's latest brainwashing superhero opiate, Wonder Man. I did that.
Also, the department had an upgrade. Now, instead of a warrant, they just show up to your house with alien guns. Luckily, Simon does break Trevor out, and pretty easily too. You have to wonder how strong this guy is because their facilities can hold someone like Emil. Although granted, he was in a much more advanced cell. The DODC started off as just a way to, as the name implies, enforce damage control, but now it's one of the leading sources of anti-super people sentiment in the MCU, Riker's Island. Before we get into the rest of our high-tech supermaxes and cosmic gulags, let's start with a normal prison, which also happens to be one of the most dangerous ones out of all of them. Riker's Island is the MCU's version of the real-life New York detention complex, and it plays a huge role in Daredevil Season 2 as the place where both Wilson Fisk and Frank Castle are incarcerated. Throughout Daredevil, we see that Riker's is less of a prison and more of a hidden hub for criminals. It's deeply controlled by the same organized crime that its cells are meant to contain. And sure, you might think it was mainly Fisk, but even before him, Dutton had a fair amount of control over the prison and was the top dog. When Fisk took that spot from him, things just became a lot worse. Fisk managed to gain control of every single guard, staff, and even inmate inside the prison. All of them were just pawns in his plans to control crime from within one of New York's most infamous facilities.
You're regaining power in here.
Yes, ask my lawyer. He'll deny it. Ask the guards. They'll deny it. Ask the inmates here. They'll cut their tongues out before they talk.
Entire cell blocks begin operating under Fisk's direct command, and he's able to manipulate things like prison transfers, orchestrate violence between rival gangs, and have complete control of contraband, information, and even camera footage. They literally listen to his every word.
Quiet!
And this was all while he was working with the FBI. I mean, look at this guy.
In prison, there's only room for one kingpin.
Even Dutton still had to behave like a prisoner. But Fisk, he just showed how deep the corruption went in Riker's by taking full advantage of it. How he got Dutton in this position is even more shocking. He arranged for Frank Castle to get in contact with Dutton so Frank could find the truth about what happened the day his family died.
Considering the amount of enemies you have in here,
I'm not gonna be your goddamn trigger, man. I'm not
I'm
doing it.
offering you the opportunity to confront the man implicated in the deaths of your family. Yes, I benefit from your action.
So, Frank takes care of Dutton.
You're right. You're right.
And when he's outlived his use, the guards take care of Frank.
What are you doing? Open the goddamn door. Hey. Hey.
Mr. Castle, thank you. I couldn't have done it without you.
What happens next is one of the most brutal sequences in all of Marvel history. Everybody who runs this prison is already on a criminal's payroll, and even lawyers like Matt don't have any power here. In fact, just getting out of Riker's almost took Matt's life in what was perhaps the most clear display that the system Daredevil believed in was broken at its very core. By the time Poindexter is imprisoned there, it's honestly not that much better. Although it's still nowhere near as bad as it was during Fisk's run. That guy literally had rooms for himself with hotel service. In the comics, Riker serves as a facility for enhanced individuals too, even in the games, like Insomniac's Spider-Man. But in the MCU, it's one of the most realistic portrayals of systemic corruption. Honestly, the MCU shines when it's street level. Seagate Prison. Riker's isn't the only corrupt clink either. Seagate is where Luke Cage is imprisoned after he's wrongfully convicted. It's an incredibly violent place, but on paper, it's just a simple, plain jail. In Season 1 of Luke Cage, though, it's pretty clear there's a lot more going on than just weekend MMA tournaments, which apparently the guards organize. Seagate Prison was also a front for Dr. Noah Burstein's inhumane, illegal experimentation on inmates. He'd promised them medical treatment, but secretly, he'd use them as test subjects, trying to enhance their physical abilities, all in exchange for time off their sentences. None of these worked, by the way, and all of the prisoners died. The only reason Luke goes through this is that it's the only way to save his life, which also ended up giving him his powers. Seagate is less a prison and more an illegal lab, but that's just how it goes when with Marvel jails. Alcatraz Prison. This is probably the most realistic prison out of all of them, down to the location. The real-life Alcatraz prison is also located on Alcatraz Island off the coast of San Francisco. In real life, it had one famous prison break, when Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers somehow got out with nothing but handmade tools. We get the same thing in the MCU too, except this time, it's a branched variant known as Casey under the alias of Frank Morris. In the middle of his historical escape, he's confronted by Loki, who disappears soon after, and the trio continues on their prison break. The Raft. This is the MCU's superhuman supermax. The first time we see it is in Civil War, after the airport fight in Leipzig. Sam, Wanda, Clint, and Scott all get arrested for violating the Sokovia Accords. Plus, these guys have everything you'd need for enhanced people, as they say. Power-dampening collars, an isolated cell, and it's stranded in the middle of an ocean. It's literally even built for Hulk-level threats, since Thaddeus Ross gets sent here in Brave New World. Despite all of that, it's not entirely foolproof. Steve Rogers managed to break into it, knock out several guards, and get out with his fellow Avengers with ease. To be fair, sneaking into enemy territory was like an average Tuesday for Steve during the World War. Usually, prisons are for rehabilitation, but this one's entirely for containment. In the MCU, it's basically the panic button for the US government. When they don't know what to do with someone, they just put them here. They don't really do anything with them here either, considering how inmates stay in solitary confinement for up to 23 hours a day. As much as it's hyped up, the Raft hasn't really contained many superpowered people. The Avengers broke out, there was Helmut Zemo and Trish Walker, but come on, we're not counting them. There is Ross, but I'm not sure if that was because he intentionally didn't Hulk out because of guilt, or if they can actually contain someone like that. The Kyln. This is the first intergalactic prison we see in the MCU, and it's run by the Nova Corps. It's basically where the Corps send most of their prisoners, and its reputation is as big as the prison itself. Rocket calls it the stomach of the prison system, because apparently it's incredibly violent. In a deleted scene, Roman backs this up.
What I was going to say was, the Kyln is a barbaric place.
When the Guardians eventually do get imprisoned here, they quickly make a plan to escape, which apparently is pretty hard despite how easily they do it. But that was mostly just Rocket being a genius. Most of the inmates here become pretty hardened by the harsh environment inside the prison. Plus, a lot of them are actually just victims of Ronan's many homicides throughout the galaxy. The guards here don't really care much about keeping peace inside the prison. They only have one job. Don't let anyone get out. Besides that, whether they beat or kill each other is none of their business. They're pretty good at keeping people in, though. Besides the Guardians, the guards are well equipped, considering they have full state-of-the-art combat gear, laser guns, and even their own hoverbots. After the Guardians escaped, Ronan showed up to the Kyln with his Sakaarians and had most of the guards and prisoners killed. Plus, he had Nebula wipe out anyone who was still alive, so the Kyln isn't really functional anymore. Sakaar. In Marvel, even a planet can be a prison, or at least Sakaar works like one. Anyone that's unfortunate enough to fall into a wormhole and end up here gets used for entertainment. Initially, you get trapped by the Grandmaster, like our resident Asgardian god.
Fail!
Man, he's a fighter.
By the way, how do you electrocute the God of Thunder? Once you're trapped, the Grandmaster takes prisoners who seem like good fighters and makes them gladiators against their will. And if he doesn't think you can throw a punch, well...
Oh my God!
all jokes aside, it's actually really cruel. There's no real due process here. But that's how the Grandmaster runs Sakaar, by controlling entertainment. The fridge. In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we get introduced to two facilities. The bus and the fridge, which is essentially the Burj Khalifa of prisons. Literally, look at this thing. 100 floors tall, state-of-the-art defenses, and with only one entrance, the roof. It's designed to be a maximum security prison that doubles as a storage facility. Confiscated alien tech, experimental weapons, and even substances like gravitonium, which is a material that can actually bend space. The only time it ever gets compromised is when Hydra infiltrates it and steals several weapons, including some gravitonium, but ultimately the S.H.I.E.L.D. manages to protect it. Also, to be fair to them, Hydra infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. so they could break it from the inside, which also helped them get into the fridge. The bus. Compared to the fridge, the bus is a lot more compact. It's got pretty much everything you would want in a private military-grade jet. A living room, a research lab, and even a mini bar. But most importantly, it has the cage. This little cell was built with superpowers in mind, because it's made entirely out of silicon carbide vibranium alloy. That's a really fancy way of saying it's super durable. Most superpowers aren't really enough to get out of this thing. It also doubles as an interrogation room, but most of the time, it's just for holding people. But on a much more important note, who names these things? Maybe we'll get the grill in Doomsday. And that's about every prison, illegal, planetary, or otherwise in the MCU. A lot of these are either fronts for freaky science experiments, and some are just flat out worse than the criminals in them. Think we missed one? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll cover it next time. In the meantime, what do you guys think about the new damage control storyline in Wonderment? As always, catch us next time for another debrief of all things Marvel.